I'm right, it's not just me presenting. We're also going to have Ben Reed from Cornwall Insights presenting and Toby from Granular Energy, and they can explain a bit about. So we're going to have raise the energy for the last slot of the day. Yeah, 15 minutes, 5 minutes each, and I promise you, it's not death by PowerPoint because we've only got 3 slides. So there you go. So you're already a winner, all right? So you've got to just listen to our wisdom for a few moments. So my name's Haydn, and I run Rutland Forums. It's a collaboration network of businesses that work together to reach net zero. I used to be a head of energy for a big retailer years ago, and I was the energy buyer, the kind of person that would be the grumpy one on the other side of the table if you ever sold power, or always criticise the energy prices going down, and I wanted lower prices, that kind of thing. Anyway, when I was in this role, I joined a network of retailers who met and collaborated regularly. It was called the Retail Energy Forum, and over the years I took over that group of retailers, and I've grown it to a larger network of businesses who meet and collaborate. So a whole bunch of retailers who meet, a lot of banks that meet, a lot of telcos that meet, I'm going to forget some logistics businesses that meet, a whole bunch of airports and American retailers who meet in separate sectors. So what happens is they all meet every quarter in a room in confidence, and we work together to reach net zero. Why do they join? Well, I'll give you an example. When I was an energy manager, I wanted to ask Tesco's advice about how to do solar panels, wanted to ask John Lewis advice on how to do biomethane, wanted to ask the co-op advice about wind turbines, and then I could sit in a room and ask them. Anyway, why am I here talking about 24/7 energy, and what's the benefit? Well, for us as big businesses, we are always trying to find ways that we need to move towards net zero. What are our big issues? And our big issue going forward is transparency of net zero. We don't want to have people coming along and saying, are you genuinely green? Are you dodging the numbers? Are you catching you out? And there's lots of this green hush, green wash, whatever you want to call it, going on. And transparency is one of our biggest concerns. And in many ways, there's transparency in a whole range of different areas. Well, there's a whole program about transparency around HVO. We've had a previous presenter talk about that. That's, animal fats that goes into trucks. But there's a worry that if you buy animal fats from trucks, it could create a subsequent effect somewhere else in the world where they're growing fuel, palm oil, for example. Slight myth, but anyway, it's a concern. So we're looking at traceability for that. But and there's other ones, SBTI, traceability. But one of the big issues for us is electricity. Renewable energy, where is it genuinely coming from? And that's through something called REGOs. Now, any of you know what a REGO is? Okay, lots of nods, thank goodness, and I'm going to educate the audience. Essentially, it's green energy that you buy from an energy supplier. And many energy suppliers around here have been flogging it for ages, and people like me have been buying it and saying, yes, I'm buying green energy, and I've been going to my boss in the past saying I'm buying you green power. Today, we discover it's greenish, slightly green, maybe slightly green with a bit of, and what we need is to be sure where it's truly coming from, transparent. And that's where this whole initiative around 24/7 came in, which I know Toby's going to talk about in a few moments, and about how to be more transparent about where it's coming from, the sources of those power, to give us confidence in our buying decisions. Now, for me, why I got involved also is because I was contacted by DESNES, or BAYS was they once called. You know, these lovely government acronym departments. They're 1 minute they're DEC, next minute they're BAYS, now they're DESNES. And they said, well, we're concerned about people not buying green energy. If your customers, they start exiting, and some of them have started exiting from green power because they're concerned about it. So we need to get more transparency. So the whole focus for us was REGOs, how we can get more value for them, and how we could be more transparent around it. And that's where this sort of story starts, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to pass to Ben, who's going to talk about the actual REGOs, and then I'll pass to Toby, who's going to talk about the 24/7 solution to it. Sound good?
Excellent. All right. Good afternoon. So my name's Ben Reed. I work for Cornwall Insight. Cornwall Insight are energy market analysts and consultants, which sounds rather dry, but there's a really good connection between us and Haydn's Forum in that we all love talking about energy. So I regularly speak to Haydn's Forum. We are total energy geeks. It's just a subject that we find really interesting. We find it interesting from a different perspective than perhaps a lot of you may do. We really love graphs. So a spreadsheet, Cornwall Insight will produce a lot of slides. So for me to do a single slide today was quite challenging. But I think a graph does tell 1,000 words in a way a picture might otherwise do. And I think the first thing I wanted to start off with, though, is whilst a REGO may not achieve what a lot of people think it does, it is actually working exactly how it was designed from a regulatory perspective. So this is what Cornwall Insight do. We monitor regulatory change driven by policy change, how that impacts the financial side of the market, the economics, the geopolitics. We love all of that extra stuff. And I suppose what brings us here today is, well, we supply a lot of that information to the suppliers you've met today, and we also provide it to large consumers who are trying to better understand the energy market from a more sort of macro strategic level so that it can make changes in a more pragmatic sense. So one way I can help with that is that we do quarterly surveys on a whole range of topics, and today I just pulled out our tracker of renewable certificates. So there are certificates both for electricity, for gas, for hydrogen, and what this graph is basically telling you is that the price of a REGO for each of these different years. So let me just step back a second, because a REGO, how it's designed really simplistically is it matches 1 megawatt of renewable generation to 1 megawatt of consumption. It's technically impossible to track an electron from point of generation to the point of consumption, but it allows you as the consumer or the supplier to say, for every megawatt that we've seen consumed, 1 megawatt has been generated. So that's all very well and good, up until the point when the prices become a problem and then people start to ask questions. So this is what the graph has been showing us. I remember when actually the line was about half, 50p. It rose into the, in some cases, £25 in the sort of the high point of last summer. And it started to come down as fundamentally it's just a traditional supply and demand market. There are there's no regulatory mechanisms controlling this. It's what the sellers think they can sell and what the buyers think they can buy for. And then the price has reflected that for various different reasons. We've seen European certificates come out of the market. Perhaps we've seen some buyers come out of the market. How am I doing for time, by the way? We're all right.
Absolutely no idea.
Good stuff. So I think probably just we can see what some of so cost is a driver. People go, right, really, what am I paying for? And I've been telling the business, as Haydn said, I'm green. So what do I really want? I want that money to mean something. We've got clients who are spending hundreds of thousands of pounds of REGOs. And whilst they don't necessarily also want to bank that money, I'm sure their CFO might, what they really want to see is genuine additionality driven into the market. But as I go back to what I said at the start, the REGO was simply designed as a mapping exercise. That money, it may well end up with the original developer, it may end up with the broker. It doesn't fundamentally drive the business case for developing a new renewable site. In fact, 12 months ago, we did a really interesting study alongside OVO, where we looked through the business case of a new development, and lo and behold, REGOs, nice to have, but they're not bankable income, and it didn't drive the case for renewables. So, what do customers want? They want their money to mean something. They want more renewables. They want to be able to talk about it. So, the complications. What if we change things? What if we move to a system where instead of mapping on a 12-month basis, you're mapping on a half-hourly basis? That gives you much better reporting that you can say, during the day in a sunny period, I'm 100% renewable, but come 6 o'clock, when everyone's switching on their appliances, lo and behold, there's some more gas in the mix, and I'm no longer as green as I thought. But so there's a bit of a question there about, is that really what consumers want? I think it's really helpful information to have that transparency, because then you can start to do something with it, and you can drive behaviours accordingly. So anything else I wanted to say? So if we do go down this route, then there's got to be quite a lot of extra work going through, and this week is likely to have a change of government, which is going to have a whole new policy agenda, which have some very ambitious targets already communicated. So there's an awful lot of work to do, and amongst a whole range of things. So we all have to watch and wait and see and how we drive this market. But I think I've probably rattled on for long enough, so I'm going to hand over to Toby, who has an actual solution.
Hi everybody. Yes, thanks a lot, Ben and Haydn, for the intros. sorry to say I'm also an energy geek. I've been in this for quite a long time. I started off doing a PhD in solar energy a long time ago, and I still enjoy talking about energy. And yeah, I wanted to say a few words. So I'm co-founder of a software company called Granular Energy, and we provide software to many of the big energy suppliers. So there's a couple of logos on the screen where we actually work with a lot of the energy suppliers in the market, making it easy for them to provide more transparency to energy consumers, businesses, and everyone else who buys energy. And I guess where I came, I'll tell you a little story about how I became interested in this topic. So as I was saying, I've been in the energy sector for a while. About 7 years ago, I was doing another energy software company, which was bought by OVO Energy, who we've just mentioned, and we were doing kind of demand response. I was working for OVO. We were trying to get customers to shift their consumption from one time to another with their electric vehicles or with batteries to help balance the grid. But at the same time, as an energy supplier, we were selling people 100% renewable energy. And there was something that didn't quite make sense to me and even some of the customers, because we would get questions like, well, if you've just sold me 100% renewable energy, why does it matter when I'm using my energy? Because if it's all renewable, then surely, that's fine. What's the problem? And so something didn't quite make sense, which, this is going back about 5 years ago, so it led me down a road to do a lot of research into the mechanism behind green energy, which is the REGO system we've been hearing about. And I sort of came to a couple of conclusions. One is that if you want, and this is, it's a genuine if, but if we want to have the choice between clean energy and fossil fuels, as in we want to give consumers that ability to choose where their energy comes from, then you do need some kind of accounting system, something either REGOs or something very similar to REGOs, to say this megawatt hour has been bought by this consumer without any risk of double counting. So you can't make any kind of fraudulent claims. There's that matching between a unit of energy that was generated and a unit of energy that was consumed. And this is why Ofgem oversees this whole mechanism, to bring trust to that claim. So they are really important. And by the way, over £1 billion was spent on REGOs last year. And this money is, yes, some is going to being taken out by brokers, but a lot of it does go back to developers. So it's a lot of, and this is money that doesn't increase the energy costs for everyone. It's money that's being spent by people who can afford to, businesses and individuals that are paying extra to be green. So it's a significant pot of money that's being spent by these consumers. But there's a big flaw in the system, and that flaw is the fact that to be able to claim you're 100% renewable in today's world, what you need to do is just say match your consumption in a annual period with energy that was produced in the same 12-month window. And as long as those two numbers add up, you can claim to be 100% renewable. But of course what that means is you could buy all of your energy from a solar farm in the middle of the summer and claim to be using that energy at any point during the year, including at nighttime in the winter, which doesn't reflect the physical reality of what's happening on the grid. Sometimes we have too much renewable energy. Sometimes we have a shortfall. The sun does not shine at nighttime, right? So it's not really, it's leading to some concerns over trust in the system. How credible are these claims? But and the other issue is that it's not sending a very effective price signal to the market, which, as Ben was saying, we want to have an impact when we're buying clean energy. And with the current system, because the price is the same regardless of time of day, so it's the same regardless of fluctuations in supply and demand of renewable energy, it's not sending a useful price signal. To be a good price signal, what you want is for renewable energy to be cheap when it's in oversupply and more expensive when it's in undersupply. And so the answer that sort of being proposed, and it's now kind of catching on around the world, is to simply take the existing certificate systems and add a timestamp to them. So the certificates already give you the location of where the energy came from and the technology type. They actually tell you which month the energy was produced in. They just don't tell you the time of when the energy was produced. So if you add that timestamp, suddenly you can see where your energy came from down to the hour or half-hourly level. And you can imagine a world where you've got a price that varies, and so you're creating an incentive not only to build more renewables, but also some of these other technologies that we need in order to decarbonize the grid, like energy storage and demand response. So batteries can actually buy these things when they're cheap and put them back on the market. And this helps catalyze investment in whatever technology is needed to fill in all the gaps, to provide clean energy in the times and locations when it's most needed. And this is really what we need in order to accelerate the energy transition. And so what does that mean in practice for a consumer? Well, we're helping energy suppliers. There's a couple of examples here of suppliers that we're working with, and there will be others as well, so come and speak to me if you're interested in this. But there are the next generation of green energy offer won't be a simple 100% renewable. You're either renewable or you're not renewable. But suppliers can give a much more transparency. They can tell their customers where their energy has come from, down to the hourly level, which solar farm, which wind farm. And this is a process that we automate. And what that means is, as a consumer, you can, with this information, you can see when your energy is coming from clean sources, when it isn't, and then start to gradually improve it. So you'll have a matching score. And then you can gradually start to improve that matching score through demand response, investments in energy storage, and it creates this new price signal to accelerate investments. This is, by the way, starting to become recognized in international standards. So the Greenhouse Gas Protocol, which is the sort of global standard for how to report your carbon emissions. This comes under what's called Scope 2 carbon emissions. That's under review and is, we think, quite likely to recommend this. There's already a rule for green hydrogen. If you want to produce green hydrogen, you need to do this hour-by-hour matching between the electrolyzer and renewables. And we have the REGO review going on here in the UK at the moment, which is looking at this, and this higher granularity was published in the results to the call for evidence last summer. So it's really being looked at by governments all over the world, and we think quite likely to just become a requirement. But it's all about basically making it easy for consumers to make that choice between clean energy and fossil fuels in a reliable and credible way, but also one that makes a difference, that accelerates investments in whatever technology is needed to deliver clean energy where and when it's most needed. So that's a quick summary. Thank you very much.
Now, if I could just sort of conclude, so back to my analogy at the start and take questions. So back when I was buying power, I would have a contract. Now I'll be able to go to my boss and say, not only am I buying green energy, but I know where it's coming from. So it gives a lot more transparency, more confidence. You think about this building now. Wouldn't it be great if the person buying the power in this building knew, well, that was an hour ago, somebody was generating somewhere else. You know it's not the same electron. I'm not going to patronize you about that. But you know that you are investing it. And for us, as big energy buyers, I think the members of our forum are buying about 9% UK's power. We can use our buying power then to incentivize renewables. And that's properly investing in Britain.